Welcome to your good old episode 25 of this podcast. Yes, 25 of them. And today, Divisional Games are done with. The NFC Championship games are now on the table. I'll do a little college basketball because, Purdue is ranked number 1 in college basketball. So why not talk about them a little bit? But first, let's get these divisional games done with and over with. So first, the Chiefs versus the Jaguars. This game, I didn't expect this. I expected the Chiefs to have their way. It didn't go that way. Mahomes was playing great until suffers a high ankle sprain during the game. Well, Chiefs was kind of cruising. They weren't really cruising. It was close all around. Then Chad Henne comes in and makes this 98-yard drive. Gets up by 10. But the Jaguars were able to make a one-score game at half. And the rest of the game was kind of close. The Jaguars were playing catch-up while the Chiefs were able to stay ahead the entire game. Trevor Lawrence played solid, but the magic kind of ran out for the Jaguars. Mahomes did what he had to do. Isaiah McKay had some crucial carries, including that 39-yard burst for Travis Kelce. 14 catches, 98 yards, 2 scores, just being that reliable target that the Chiefs needed. And the Chiefs win in close 27-20, and they're on their way to the AFC Championship game. Just Jaguars enjoy this good season. They need to make some. They just simply need to just keep improving as a team, as an organization, and they should be fine. Eagles versus the Giants. Basically, what the Eagles just did is made Daniel Jones throw the ball more than he wants, and it just was a disaster. Saquon Barkley was contained. Daniel Jones just got overwhelmed. The Giants' offensive line just got wrecked by the Eagles. Pass rush, Hassan Reddick, Fletcher Cox, Josh Sweat, Brennan Graham, just a ridiculous. Just the Eagles is the second best team overall, in my opinion, of this league. Jalen Hurts didn't even have to do too much. Daniel Jones just sat there, made the throws they had to make, while Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, even Boston Scott scored it. Just the Eagles, line of scrimmage, it all started. Dominated the line of scrimmage on both ends, and everything else just worked. Hurts threw the ball well, ran the ball pretty solidly. The running game was perfect. The wide receivers were making the catches they need to make. The defense, the pressures were good. The tackles were being made. Some key turnovers. That pick by James Bradley, it was a disaster for them. The Giants, the Eagles were just the better team. That was the story of this game. Just Giants, you might be solid, but just the Eagles are just superior. And sometimes that's just what happens when you get run into a team like the Eagles. When you're the Giants, you're just gonna get dominated. It's what it is. Sometimes there's just nothing you can do about it. But there was a team that could have done something but lost. Buffalo Bills. This is a loss that's damning. You had all the factors, all the motivating factors that you want. Yet Joe Burrow outplays Josh Allen. Just the Bengals' defensive line seemed like Josh Allen was getting consistent pressure. The Bengals' running game was punishing Joe Mixon, 20 carries, 105 yards, while Devin Singletary goes 6 carries, 24 yards. What the hell? This was a bad loss for them. The Bills just did not look good. It seemed like the Bengals, they were a little bit better prepared. They just were more ready to go than the Bills. I don't get it. That Bills defense, they need to get pass rushers. That's what they need. They definitely missed Von Miller. Now the injuries with Micah Hyde, Von Miller, and DeMar Hamlin getting done, you were kind of screwed regardless. The Bills need to go out and get a pass rusher. Because right now, Von Miller's the only guy that an offense would be freaking out to scheme over. That's the cold hard truth. Matt Malone, you good. You're a good linebacker. but he's not Fred Warner. He doesn't scare you. Tremaine Evans doesn't scare you. Tre'Davious White, I don't know. Now, I will throw this season for Tre'Davious White in the trash. We'll see if he bounces back next year. Just nobody besides Von Miller just has the pedigree and just makes you fear them. That's the Bills' problem on defense. And yes, the offense was a dud. The defense just didn't help themselves either. Joe Burrow, that suspect Bengals offensive line that was missing 3 starters, and Joe Burrow looked like comfortable all game long. It didn't make sense. It seemed like everything. It's like when the Bengals were doing positive things keep happening. When the Bills, when it made a positive play, they couldn't do it consecutively. And that just seemed to be the case. And just the Bengals simply outplayed them in Buffalo. Now I know the Bengals playing in Cincinnati. They're used to cold weather. But this is Buffalo's home. Buffalo has the crowd. And that may be the most uninspired Bills game I've seen all season. That's damning. That is very damning. And we talk about teams. Everybody likes to talk about contenders, all that. In reality, there's not that many chances to win. You can be good for 8 years, but a better team might show up. This was honestly the year the Bills to win it, and they didn't. So, congrats, Bills. That was a big blow. This was a missed opportunity to win a Super Bowl, and because you don't know how many years can you be contenders. Because a curveball is going to get thrown. Like something's going to happen that will break the team up. Like a key career-ending, something like. In reality, you don't have many chances to win Super Bowls. So the Bills really failed to capitalize on that. Well, the Bengals, they have a chance to make it a second straight Super Bowl and maybe win it this time. As for the Bengals, Joe Burrow's really starting to make himself a guy who just is a threat regardless of who you play. So that is huge for the Bengals. And the Bengals defense has stepped up. That Bengals defense has gone off. And they kind of did it in the postseason. The offense really did the fireworks, but that defense played the underrated role. But this Bengals defense is really starting to show. Like after that win, after the 37-30 win against Pittsburgh, that Bengals defense is really starting to click. So a big win for the Bengals. The Cowboys and the Niners. Let's just laugh at the Cowboys. And can I say this? Dak Prescott's not going to get you anywhere. I'm sorry. The guy is Tony Romo again. A Tony Romo that doesn't cause any unintentional controversy. It's just who he is. He's a good regular season. He sucked in the regular season, in my opinion. Like, just who can we throw at quarterback? Can you imagine Joe Burrow on the Cowboys? Oh my God, they'll be Super Bowl winners. But nope, you're stuck with Dak Prescott, a guy who can't elevate his play, a guy who's just making mistake after mistake. Like, what happened to the quarterback who played a little bit more safer than his entire career? What happened to that version of Dak Prescott? Dak Prescott throws, I don't like, how many picks did he throw? This bum. 15 picks. Oh my God. 15 picks. He only threw 10 last year. He's not gonna go. He's not gonna take you anywhere. Like, you can be a good team for a while, but you're not gonna. And the sad part is, this is the most complete Cowboys team since '95. Y'all can't do anything with this. The defense balls out. Brock Purdy doesn't throw a touchdown pass. Christian McCaffrey gets contained. You contain almost every weapon that the Niners have. And you couldn't win because Dak Prescott is just not the guy. I'm sorry. That's the truth. That is the truth. And if Cowboy fans don't want to hear it, then they can look back to why they haven't won a Super Bowl in 25 damn years. The Cowboys need to shut the hell up and stop saying this is our year. No, it ain't. Not till you get an actual quarterback. Stupid ass Dak Prescott. 2 picks. Plays garbage. Yet almost winning because the defense balls out for you. You let as good as Brock Purdy has played, it doesn't matter. The fact that you allowed a rookie quarterback, last pick in the draft, outplays you. That's bad. That's bad. That just shows a player just sucking in a play. And Dak Prescott's a great dude. He'll say the right, he won't say anything bad at the press conference. But he's not gonna win you a Super Bowl. It's just what it is. That's just the cold hard truth. And the Cowboys fans need to start accepting it. First of all, the Cowboys fans need to stop being arrogant. They need to stop being obnoxious. Look, the 49ers fans can do the same thing, but at least the Niners are making Super Bowl appearances the last 20 years. They just couldn't close the deal. The Cowboys haven't made an NFC Championship game since '95. And they had multiple solid teams to do it. 2007, 2014, 2016. You just consistently fail to get it done. And that's what you are. You're a failure. You're the star boy failure. That's what you've been after '95. Combination of arrogant fan base, Jerry Jones is way too hands-on, whose ego has took over his ass. You're just consistently not performing in the playoffs. So I'm sorry, Cowboys fans. That's just what it is. And as for the Niners, big win. Now I honestly expected to be a little bit more impressive offensively, but you did what you had to do. They won the defense. They did what they had to do. They had the key turnovers. The Cowboys didn't. Brock Purdy wasn't that impressive, but he didn't make that mistake like Dak did. The running game was contained, but they stuck with it most of the time. They stuck with it. So the 49ers make the NFC Championship game. So before I get to college basketball, let's look at the matches. 49ers and the Eagles. I'll say both of these conference championship games should be fun. The Eagles are going to be the favorite, but how? I'm going to say this. Although the Eagles has been impressive, I will say this. The Niners are the worst team the Eagles can face. Because the Niners can shut down the run. They have done that. And the Eagles, and that's how the Eagles are good. Is that they can run the ball and be balanced and set up throwing lanes for Jalen Hurts. So if the Eagles are able to run the ball like they are, then they'll be fine. Jalen Hurts will make the throws. Just the dynamic Eagles offense is just going to make that defense life hell. And the Niners, same thing. The Niners, they run the ball to be balanced. It's about who can shut down the run. Whoever shuts down the run the best, whoever pressures the quarterback to make that one mistake, that'll be the winner. Now, both teams have great pass rushers. I'll say Eagles has the better collectively, but Nick Bosa is so good, he's just as good as the rest of the guys. That's just how good Nick Bosa is. The Niners, they have some of the best safeties to Sean Gibson and Talala Hufanga. And Jimmy Ward is very good. Fred Warner is probably the best linebacker out there, and Drake Greenlaw is just as good. So the Niners' defense overall is great. And the Eagles, just as good, just a little tad lower. Pass rush, they have one of the best pass rushes you've ever seen. 4 guys, 10 plus sacks. Son Reddick, Javon Hargrave, Josh Sweat, Brennan Grant. Fletcher Cox has 7 sacks in his own. I'll say the linebackers are not as good as the Niners, like T.J. Edwards and Kazir White, but I'll argue that Eagles have the better corners. Gardner Johnson, Darius Slay, James Bradbury. They're the better corners than the Niners, but the Niners have the better safeties. So it's really about, because I personally think the team that shuts down the run is going to win. I'll give it to the Niners. I predicted the Niners to win, to go to the Super Bowl. Why change now? As for Kansas City and Bengals, this is more on Kansas City, in my opinion, than the Bengals. It's about changing the narratives, because Patrick Mahomes has not beaten Joe Burrow yet. Last year they faced each other twice. Burrow came on top both times, and this year in the regular season, the Bengals once again came out on top. It's for the Chiefs. It's about changing narratives. It's about can we beat these guys? Can we beat the Bengals? They have the team to do it. The question is obviously going to be about Mahomes' ankle, because his large part of his game is him improvising in the pocket, make those crazy throws that he does it normally. Now the Chiefs have the weapons. Like I said it before the season even started. Like the Chiefs will be fine. Travis Kelce's the best tight end. Valdez Scanlon and Juju Smith-Schuster, they'll be assets. And Jarrett McKinnon has done an excellent job as a receiving back. So that's what I'm saying. The Chiefs are fine. Now their defense is solid. Like Chris Jones is a monster. Frank Clark is solid. George Karlaftis is pretty solid. But the Chiefs secondary is kind of their fault. Like outside of their linemen, like Nick Bolton is solid. Like Nick Bolton's a pretty good linebacker. Just doesn't make the plays like some other linebackers do, but he's good. I'm worried about that secondary. That's what I'm worried about, because L'Jarius Sneed is solid. They have Trent McDuffie. Juan Forhill is a good safety. Just the Chiefs secondary doesn't scare anybody. They ain't gonna scare the Bengals. Now the Bengals, they're making this run. It's basically, can they run it back? And they've been on a hot streak. Their defense has been balling out for them. Burrow is making the plays that he needs to do. Joe Mixon's he's starting to get going. Even with 3 starters out, Jamar Chase has been that guy. T. Higgins has been that guy. Tyler Boyd's been that slot. So they all have the set. As for the defense, I trust the Bengals defense more than I trust the Chiefs defense. Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard are the 2 pass rushers who can also stuff the run pretty good. Von Bell and Jesse Bates are Pro Bowl caliber safeties. Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt are better linebackers than what the Chiefs have, in my opinion. Now the Bengals defense ain't the most special either. Eli Apple, Mike Hilton, like they're solid. It really depends. As for the Bengals, I will say this: Frank Clark and Chris Jones are better pass rushers than what the Bills have. They need Alex Kappa and Jonah Williams back. They need both of them back. So I don't know. I'm more confident of the Bengals than the Chiefs right now, because I just think but I can tell the Chiefs are probably gonna be more amped up because the narrative. So I'm gonna go with the Bengals. I think the Bengals can run the ball when they need to better than the Chiefs. And the Chiefs, I'll say the Chiefs are better at running the ball than last year. But if the Bengals need to use it as a necessity, they can do it. I don't think Matt Mahomes is going to be 100%. And I believe as the game goes on, especially like the second half, I think that's going to be proved costly. I think that the Chiefs need to get like another like a good corner. The Chiefs defense is mediocre. The Bengals defense is good to probably great. Like they're a great defense. And what's even better is the Bengals can play sticky defense when they need to. And that's going to be, in my opinion, the determination of this game. So give me the Bengals. So my Super Bowl matchup is the 49ers versus the Bengals. And I have no idea. It's too early for me to pick which one's going to win. So those are my winners. I have the 49ers winning. I have the Bengals winning. So those are mine. College basketball. Purdue is ranked number 1. They're back to number 1. Now, as a Purdue basketball fan, I have my worries. Like Purdue team is great, but I'm just worried about the inconsistent. Because it's like Edie's going to get 20 points and 10 rebounds. It's guaranteed. And Caleb First is going to be a nice facilitator, but it all comes down to Fletcher Loyer and Braden Smith. It's going to come down to those two. Like the bench is going to do what they need to do most nights. It's really about, can those two stay consistent? Like Braden Smith, there are times where sometimes, like especially like a defense presses him, you kind of see the turnovers pop up and the team's getting momentum. Fletcher Loyer, he tends to be hot and cold, but I think over the course he's playing a little bit more consistent now. That's going to determine it. Purdue is an above average offense and an almost top 10 defense statistically. Alabama jumps to 2. Oh my God. If there's one team I don't want to see do anything in the tournament, it's Alabama. I don't want to see their fans get propped up. I don't think anybody wants to either, but that's a story for another day. But they're ranked number 2. Houston drops to 3. Tennessee is ranked 4th. Tennessee has the second best defense statistically, only behind Houston. Kansas State is ranked 5th, but they did lose a close one to Iowa State. The Big 12 is probably the best conference this season. Very good this year. As we look in the polls, how many teams are? Kansas State's ranked 5th. Kansas is ranked 9th. Texas 10th. TCU 11th. Iowa State 12th. Baylor 17th. Like, that's the overall the best conference this season. And a team that's honestly been a little disappointing is the Big 10. Purdue is the best team, clearly, in the Big 10. Rutgers is pretty good. Purdue does play Michigan next, which I'm worried about the guard play, which that's a story for another day. But Northwestern is actually okay. Illinois, hit or miss. Michigan State, they're good, but they're not anywhere great. IU's starting to pick things back up. Wisconsin, it really hasn't been that good since. Who's that? Who's that one guard a few years ago? Who's that one guard they had? Johnny Davis. Like, they really missed Johnny Davis. That's who they're missing. Wisconsin there's just no identity on that team. I'm not worried about Wisconsin. Iowa, Chris Murray's the only guy I'm worried. Penn State's okay. Like, Jalen Pickett is great. Purdue is overall the best team in the Big Ten. And I'll say this, and I might go crazy with the expectation. If Purdue goes to the tournament, and if I'm going to have confidence, they need to only have 4 losses. I will say this, they're afforded to drop 3 games. If they go to the tournament like with 4 losses, I'm okay. Anything more, I'm concerned. Because the Big Ten is weaker this year than most years. This is the perfect opportunity to continue to run the table, and that's the and that's, in my opinion, that should be the standard for this season. If you don't dominate these teams, I'm gonna lose confidence. Just look at the Maryland game. Look it up. Look at the Maryland game. Wasn't too happy. Why? They didn't dominate. Championship teams dominate. Now they're not gonna dominate every game, especially against an inferior foe like a Maryland team. They gotta start dominating. And Maryland's solid, but they're not that good. They're not that, like, they went on this winning streak. They were ranked, at one point they were ranked 13, but they're falling apart. Ohio State has fallen off. This is a weak season for the Big Ten, and so Purdue needs to take advantage of it. So I'm warning you now. If you don't look impressive, if you don't win the Big Ten tournament, I'm not going to have any confidence that you'll win a national title. And I do anticipate the guard play being consistent, but it has to happen. You can anticipate something, but overall it needs to happen. The other teams that look legit, it's honestly a mixed bag. UConn's kind of slowing down. They have not done good. Alabama's a threat. Tennessee's a threat. Houston, regardless of their loss, they're a threat. A lot of teams are threats in the college basketball world to win a national title. It's really about who's going to get it done. And even though Purdue's ranked number 1, they have never got it done. Ever. Never. In their program history, they've never got it done. Alabama, this is their first time being relevant. Houston has never got it done. Tennessee's never got it done. It's been 97 for Arizona. Virginia has pedigree, but Virginia is taking advantage of a weak conference this year. ACC is kind of weak. Miami and Clemson are both good, but that's about it. Virginia has like Boston College, Syracuse. Like, they're most competitive. Like, Virginia Tech should win their 3 straight games. If they don't, they're frauds. That's what I'm going to say. They probably will. Kansas, they're still good, but they definitely need to regroup a little bit. And it's more likely than not to see a Big 12 team win a national title this year. That's what I'm seeing. That's kind of the college basketball world. I don't really pay attention that much of the NBA till the playoffs come in. That's how I do it. Nuggets and the Boston Celtics, they got the number 1 seeds. The Sacramento Kings are actually the 3rd seed. They've averaged the most points per game as a team-wise. Grizzlies are 2nd. Pelicans 4th. Clippers are... This NBA season is so odd because there's no clear title in it, which is probably good for the league. You have a lot of guys trying to take over the league. Like, you have Jokic, Doncic, Tatum, Embiid, Giannis, Durant, Morant. This is a very, I can't wait till April. That's when I'm basically waiting until March and April shows up. Because in my opinion, there hasn't been a team that has separated themselves. Like, the 4 top teams cannot. Maybe the Western Conference, like Memphis and the Nuggets, like those 2 are probably going to be the conference. But the Eastern Conference, you have 4 teams that can do it. Celtics, 76ers, Bucks, Nets. Maybe not the Cavs. I think the Cavs will get bounced. They don't have the experience, even though they are a good team. I just don't think they have the experience to make a far run, but it is possible. It's definitely possible. So that'll be it for this episode of NFL's divisional games, college basketball, and what's trending up in the NBA. So that'll be it for this episode. Thanks for watching.